Hey everybody, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium. Today we have a topic from Khalees, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Khalees 98. It's a very often discussed topic in Zelda. They were wondering about perhaps the idea of a game where you play as a different protagonist as Link. I know it's often discussed, but I thought it'd be interesting to hear your take on it. There was another commenter, Keeper of Knowledge, who mentioned Zelda in the same thread, so maybe worth discussing. I've always wondered what you thought.
I guess it depends. Do you think in Zelda we've had a lot of instances where we play as like NPCs or other characters for small portions of the time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what comes to mind? Like, I think Majora's Mask might have been one of the first ones where you play as Kefaya for that short period of time in that little quest when you're trying to get the sun mask, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're like just pushing blocks, and it's really small. I remember it caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting to be able to control another character.
Yeah.
But I thought it was awesome. I thought it was cool. I think that was the first instance of that, because that definitely didn't happen in Legend of Zelda Adventure of Link, Link to the Past.
Yeah, I don't think...
So,
yeah, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, but they've since expanded on that a little bit. I think you can control Medley for a portion in Wind Waker. You could control
and Makar.
And Makar. You could control, like in Spirit Tracks, it took it to a whole new level because you had full control over a Phantom. When Zelda took over the Phantom.
Right.
And I always liked those small little instances. In Phantom Hourglass, you can control the little Goron. It was like it turned into like a co-op game a little bit.
Yeah.
Where a one-player co-op game where you were just switching between. And I think those types of instances are cool. I'd like to see more of that too. I think that's always fun. But in terms of like totally playing as a totally different character, it would have to make sense.
Yeah.
Like in a game like Hyrule Warriors, it makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Because the story, well, some levels you can only pick certain characters, and the story progresses, based on the character you picked. But then in some levels later on, it's like, oh, you can play as Link, or you can play as Zelda, or you can play as Lana, or whoever.
Right.
And that's okay because it fits. But like, I can't imagine playing Twilight Princess as if there was a totally different character. Or if you were playing, like, I suppose if you had a selectable character at the beginning of the game, where it's like you want to play as Link or, I don't know, Todd, and then the whole game changed where there was no mention of Link ever, and it was just Todd, and he had a different character model.
Okay.
I don't think that's the point of the question that they were asking, though. But, I mean, like, if you were to be able to, like, totally customize your character, and then everything was the same in the game, just based on your character, I guess that would be okay.
Okay. So kind of like in previous games where you could pick your name and then the game would call you.
Yeah, if they took that a step further. But I'm not sure. I don't think that was the intent of the question. I think they meant...
like playing as Sheik or Impa or Zelda or something. Linkle, yeah. You don't feel like that would... because there are other... not that Zelda has to be like other franchises, but there are other series that aren't bound by a single character.
Right.
Like Assassin's Creed comes to mind because we're going to there's different time periods and blah blah blah. Like, but it's still, the character still kind of embodies the series.
Yeah. But in a game like Assassin's Creed, it could be the same character and the game wouldn't change.
Right.
Yeah. So in that sense, there might be some Assassin's Creed fans that don't even know it's a different character. Well, yeah. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, even like Final Fantasy, you play as different characters in almost every single game. Yeah, but like I think it's very dependent on the situation. Like one game that comes to mind, like Triforce Heroes. You get multiple links, but it would be cool if they're, you have costumes that make you look like other characters and whatever, but they could have totally just put different characters in there. Have a little...
that could have been cool, yeah.
You just play as Zelda, play as, I don't know, Malin.
Could you see a game where you have maybe more of a cast of characters, including Link, that you could maybe switch from?
Like I said, I think it kind of depends on the game. So if it's like a multiplayer game,
Okay.
or if it's a sort of a game that doesn't take itself too serious, like Hyrule Warriors, those are the ones that come to mind perfectly. But I can't, like, Skyward Sword. The game is totally story driven, based on your character, and I mean they would have to. I mean, maybe if they did something like Resident Evil, like the original Resident Evil, where it's a game that plays totally different based on two playable characters, almost like it's like there's two different paths through the game.
Okay, yeah.
Where things like events are totally different depending on which adventure you are playing. Something like that could work. I don't know if that works in today's world though. That might be a little outdated of a model.
Yeah, because games are so complicated now to make it. They have to be so open that.
Right.
They don't have to be, but.
Yeah, and there's more. There'd be more of a push for. Well, why would you be making two separate missions or two separate quests? Basically, is what that was. When you can just there'll be more emphasis on like co-op or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Now you're a big Wand of Gamelon fan.
Yeah, hardcore. Yeah. I play it daily.
We should at least cover the like Zelda in a game. I Wand of Gamelon doesn't mean anything in this conversation.
It means everything.
Other than it's the first Zelda game where you can play as. But I mean, what do you think about that concept at least?
It's sort of like it. Could you have? All it matters is for the storyline for the first opening scene and the last scene. Really, like it's just you could totally just replace that character with Link. It could be Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon, or I mean Link, the Wand of Gamelon, and
right.
You just change two scenes or something at the beginning, and you get the exact same game.
Yeah.
So that's a situation where it's almost interchangeable. It's kind of a gimmick that you get to play as Zelda because Zelda from Wand of Gamelon and Link from Face of Evil are identical. There's no difference between how their characters play or their abilities or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it's like a novelty. Like you get to play as Zelda. It's cool, but it's not like a game like Hyrule Warriors where the characters are more distinctive because their abilities are totally different.
That kind of playing as different characters who have different abilities really works well in a not a multiplayer game, but like a game like that where you have these different scenes or levels that you're taking on, and you can kind of go in at a different strategy,
Yeah.
Whereas to make a whole huge game where you could pick different characters and have different outcomes, it's probably. I'm trying to think of a game like that, but.
Well, one game comes to mind. I'm not sure this is exactly what you're thinking of, but like Mega Man, when they moved to like the Mega Man X series a little bit, you stopped playing as just Mega Man. Then suddenly they introduced Zero as a character who didn't have a buster. He had like a giant sword. So it's like the game totally changed because you didn't have the traditional projectile anymore, but instead you had more of a melee combat weapon.
Okay, yeah.
And it totally changed. Those are 2D worlds and everything, but it totally changed how the game is played a little bit.
Right.
And it made it like a different experience. So like if they ever were to do separate characters like that, I think they would have to make them a little more very distinctive like that, giving them totally different characteristics and traits and abilities.
If you did there already are some elements of the characters that you can play off of.
Right.
Like if you had Zelda, she does like if you compare them to like how they are in those kind of games or Super Smash Brothers, like Zelda does a lot of magic and stuff.
Right. Or maybe she's better with the bow.
Right.
She's more abilities with the bow. She's not a close combat person, whereas Link is more of a melee combat person. I don't know. I'm just generalizing a little bit.
Right. Yeah, let's come up with this game right now. My opinion on the whole thing is why not for anything really, like
it would have to make sense in this, like the game would either have to have different stories based on your pickable character, or more ambiguous stories where it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So a game like Breath of the Wild could work where the story is virtually irrelevant, or where if they wanted to put if you wanted to play the whole game as, I don't know, Impa or something, or Darunia, or I don't know, whatever, just picking other characters from the series, they could easily have done that, just because nothing in the game really needs to change,
right?
Other than a few minor story elements would need to be tweaked, and they could make that work.
I also wouldn't be surprised now that they're doing stuff like DLC. That happens a lot in DLC, where it's like, here's the side story where you just play as a different character,
right?
And it kind of sheds some, even Operation Ada or whatever it was on Resident Evil 4. Just it ties into the story, but it's a different character.
Yeah,
I can see, they do a Breath of the Wild DLC, and it's like, here's a Rivali backstory or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of varying opinions on this one. Leave other topics for us to discuss, or now that we're back in the saddle. And thanks for watching.